met, right?
Yes.
So much has happened. I want to say Happy New Year. I hope that as this year started, that you've moved forward, knowing that God is with you and He's always with you. And like I always say, there's always hope in Jesus. Um, so today we're going to do this a little different. You know, I know Miss Dr. Ross and I, we've been sitting here for like 2 years. It'll be 2 years in February. And I started to think about when we first started, we said, we don't know what we're doing. I feel like I still don't know what I'm doing. But it was like we were saying yes to God. And so today I thought, I talked to her last week and I said, well, why don't we kind of just ask you, like, why did you decide to say yes to God? Not just with the Coffee with Carmen, but just with your life and who you are and how people see you and that type of thing. So yeah, I know I feel like I'm putting you on the spot, but I think it's important sometimes for people just to hear our story, why.
Yeah. Well, so for me, my initial yes to God started when I was a kid, and I was 5 years old, and I remember accepting Jesus into my heart as a kid. And then just growing up, we always went to church. It was kind of just always part of my life. But I wouldn't say that it was like I knew God, but it wasn't like it is now. And so it was certain events, I had things happen and I don't want to talk about my crazy college years, but in college, right, my undergrad years when I was like 18, and just kind of doing my own thing and living my own life, and then really coming back to my belief and my faith in Jesus. And then, life events happened, and really probably about, 6 years ago, I would say, is when it really, my relationship with Jesus really, it was almost, I don't want to say like I said yes because God brought me to it. It wasn't me just deciding one day this is how it was going to be. It was a matter of events happening in my life that pushed me towards Him, in a way that I would have never been. I would have never gotten there on my own. So, I look at some of those things that have happened in my life. You could look at all kinds of, good, bad, all of it, and really just see God through it all and see how He has been faithful. And still, even thinking about it, I'm like, some of the things that I've been through, some of the things I've gone through, it's only God that could have sustained me and kept me. And so I now kind of knowing that and seeing it in my own life and how it's affected me and how it helped me and how God is showing up, how He shows up continuously in even just the smallest things. I know sometimes it feels like God isn't there, and it feels like He's not showing up. You ask the questions like, "Where are you, God?" Right. And then something little will happen, and we've talked about this. Something little happens, and you're like, only God could have known that. Right. And so I have those things in my own life, and it really has compelled me to. I want people to know. I want people to know, God has a purpose for them, and God is calling them to something greater than just, and I talk about this a lot on my social media page and stuff. It's like the monotony of life. We're not here just to go through the motions, and we're not here to serve ourselves. We're not here to have this be all about me. This is about a bigger picture of things, and how do I fit into that, and the purpose behind things. And so that's what God's been showing me, and it's been pretty incredible. I say the past 6 years is really when my relationship with God has changed and gotten a lot deeper, and my roots. I talk about my roots being deeper because things are going to happen. You're going to get obstacles thrown your way. You're going to have all kinds of things, right? And it's God that sustains you through that when you are rooted and grounded in Him. And I could tell you there's so many times where that I wanted to give up, right? Like I wanted to say that God, that's enough. Like you pull me to the end of my rope, like I'm done. Right. And then He picks you back up and gives you strength again to do it again and to keep going. And
so I know you journal a lot, and I know you're in the Word like every day. I know because you send it to me. She'll send me scriptures that encourage her. And so how has that helped you? Like, just, I know you said that it's been 6 years when you really, maybe talking to God more than you used to. And so how has making that part of your routine, I know you talk about consistency a lot on your social media because, you know, you have been you're bodybuilder, you've trained, and that's part of your routine is making sure that not only are you mentally fit, but, you know, your health too. But how does the Word help you with that? Like getting up and like your routine? Yes.
So my journaling, I really committed to journaling about 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
When we started Coffee with Carmen.
Yes. Actually, yes. I committed to journaling every single day. And so even if it's not like a lot, like I don't want to make it sound like I get up and write books. Like it's like some days it is only a little bit. But I've committed that. And initially when it started, like my time with God was maybe 20 minutes. Like and now I'm like I have to have like an hour. Like and I think that's what that's how God has been able to speak, is because I've given Him that space and that time. And it, you know, like if you're wanting to hear from God, like you can't rush things. And I know like in the morning sometimes when we're rushed or we're going, like it's hard to really slow down and see what He is speaking and what He's saying. But I always, and I know people will say like read a Bible plan, like, you know, follow the Bible plan, the Bible app, and read the whole book of the Bible. But I really love, and I'm not kidding you, like some mornings I will just open my Bible and you can see my Bible's like needs to be fixed and everything. This is my original Bible from when I was, actually has a date in it, December 24th, 1994. So I will just open this and see. Just at some mornings, that's just what I feel led to do, and that's usually when, you know, they say don't do that, but I do, and God speaks, and I like to journal it because then I can look back and I can see like all the things He's spoken, and just sometimes it's me and my own thoughts, and sometimes it's like I know it's the Spirit of God, like that's the Holy Spirit is speaking, and it's only thing, you know, like sometimes He will show you something that it's like there's no way I could have thought of that on my own. So yeah, I do journaling a lot. I read. It is like part of my morning routine. And, you know, my chair. I stay with my chair and I do it, and it's just it's really good.
So do you ever feel like God's giving you like a special wow moment, like where you just knew that God was revealing something to you, or just some, you know what I'm trying to say? I'm just asking because I know God gives me those little moments where I'm like, wow, God, you knew I needed to see that or hear that, or just someone just happens to give you a call, or I don't know, or
it's funny because we talk about, like, usually you know about these because I will call you and be like, Carmen, like, oh my gosh, you're never going to believe this. But yes, I've had a lot of those recently, more so, really just in the last couple of years. As it's ironic because things in my life, there's been a lot of challenges that have come up, but it's like even in those challenges, in those moments, that's when God shows up the most. Is like when you just maybe you feel defeated, maybe you feel like it doesn't make sense, and so I've had those. I don't want to say like this is all rainbows and butterflies. Like no, it's an every obstacle and every challenge comes with a blessing on the other side of it, and that blessing is God showing up and showing you who He is, and the fact that like He sees you and He hears you. And those wow moments that I've had, we did one episode with the roses and the white roses.
Right.
And that was one of those moments for me. I had one recently where I got a phone call from, it was actually a text from some close friends of mine. And they knew a lot of the things that I was going through, and they just texted to say that they were going to help. And and they didn't know the ins and outs of where I was at the moment or what I was doing, and it happened to be in a moment where I needed that. Like it was like God throwing me this lifeline of like, okay, like I hear you, and I'm still here with you.
Right.
And so He puts people in our lives. I'm going to get emotional. I don't think I've ever cried. But
that's part of being transparent, is knowing like we do sit here and we talk about God and how good He is, but at the same time like things come, and then God's like, I love you, I'm listening, I hear you, and it gives you those wow moments where you're just like, God, you are listening, you are there, because as you read the Word and there's so many stories in there. And different, we've talked about so many. And the one I'm thinking about right now is the woman with the issue of blood, and how she pressed through. And she knew if she just touched Jesus, that she would have a wow moment. She believed, and that was hers. And then He turned around and said, who touched me? And of course she says, I did. And He calls her my daughter, and those wow moments truly make all of us know that we are His children, we are His daughters, we are His sons. And this is one of the reasons why I know we're doing this a little different, but I feel like we sit here and we talk to all of you, but we haven't shared about your yes again, and why, and those moments that God gives us where He reminds us of how much He loves us, and that we're not alone.
Yeah, He gives us people. I think that's what it is like, I didn't know, we talk about how you and I met and serving, at church, and just the circumstances of how we connected, and not knowing at the time what my future would be, like not knowing the things that I would encounter, that God placed you there for those specific moments that I would have. And he would say, that alone shows His love. Like, I put these people in your life to help you through these tough moments, to help you, to remind you of faith. And I know that's what you've been for me, is like this pillar of faith when I couldn't have faith myself. When I was like, God, I don't see what you're doing, I call you, and it's just like you had the faith for me in those moments, because there is no way that I was going to make it. And I've had a lot of those in the last couple of years of like meeting you and Shauna, and having those people around me. And I think that's one of the biggest things is that I would say is like, that's one way that God shows you that He loves you, is He puts those people in your life, and it really does make a difference in your walk, in your journey. And those people are there to help you, like support you, but also to bring you back to the truth, right? When you get too caught up in things, and maybe you don't have the eyes to see it or the vision to see it, as they can come alongside you and help you with that, and bring you back to the vision that is for you and what God has for you. So yeah, I know we talked about the story of the woman with the issue of blood. And I always like to think of the story of the woman at the well. And I just think of a lot of stories in the Bible where God talked to women and how special like women are. But you know, God loves everybody, and that's not what I'm saying. But like the woman at the well, like Jesus knew her and knew her story, and yet he still had a conversation with her and just talked to her. And I think that's the way it is with all of us. It's like Jesus just wants to talk to us. Right. He just wants to have a conversation with us. Right. And so that's how I've started seeing my walk a lot lately. And I think I shared this on a video before, is like in my quiet time, like I just envision that. I envision that conversation with Jesus and sitting with Jesus like on a bench under an oak tree, and it's just like this, you know, like if Jesus could physically be there, that's what it would look like. And you know, it's special because it's like that's my time.
And I know I asked you about your mom because I know you do share, and I didn't tell you I was going to ask you that. But and I thought about that because even today, this morning, as I was sharing with you earlier, I feel lately I've been asking God so many questions. Yeah. I'm constantly asking him questions, and as I'm driving today, I look out and I shared it on social, but you know, I see two groups of birds, and they have their formation of the way. They just know that's how they're supposed to do it, and that's how God created them. So they know when that season is coming. They all group. Who knows, you know, how they communicate, but they know it's time. And it was like they're all in unison, and you know, like in that V. And if one of them even goes out of alignment, it's not going to work. Yeah. So it was one of those things where God was reminding me, like, if they know how it's done, then always know that I'm there for you. Like I'm always showing you things, and I'm talking to you. So just be that way. Like just be willing to spread your wings. And that's one thing that God's been saying to me: just spread your wings and just go. Yeah. And
I think, you know, you think about the simplicity of it, and you know that a bird, it's instinctual to them, and they don't have to really consider all these different variables in it. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, the weather's changing, let's go, we fly. Like so for us, I think it's the difference of we complicate things. Like it's always, you know, and that's why we've talked about like the childlike faith, is because it's sometimes it has to be that way for us to actually move forward. If we start thinking about this variable and how it's going to play out, and we're trying to plan 10 steps ahead, and that's human nature. I'm not saying like not to do that. That's somewhat smart, but then you also have to understand how God works and God operates, and sometimes God doesn't. In fact, most of the time, he doesn't want us to know the answers, you know, because that's what makes him God and what makes us human. Is to be able to trust in him, we have to have that faith. And so that's why, you know, it's good to look and see that and see the simplicity of it, and just kind of like take us back to that, right? And take us back to that moment of how can I be that way with God in my walk with God.
Right. Yeah, and the other thing that comes to mind is even, I remember sharing with you, we were talking about different visions that God has given us. And so I remember I was driving to work and I saw the dark clouds, but behind it I could see the piercing of the sun. And I remember God had given me that vision in a dream, but I remember that's all I remembered when I saw that. And it was one of those things where God was reminding me, as like you said, like you don't always have to think about everything, because through what we can't see, he's always piercing his light through it, because he moves faster. And that's how, when I was driving to work, I saw that, like you could see the clouds and the sun piercing through, but at the end, I even took a picture of it where the sun was way ahead and you could see the sunlight, and that's how God works. So I just know that God is always speaking, and I even thought to myself, like even like this cup says, be still and know that I am God.
Mm-hmm.
And those are our wow moments
Mm-hmm.
when we're still and then God just says, "Here I am."
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're not distracted because He's like, "Here I am."
Mm-hmm.
And I had thought about asking you, like, why'd you start your yes again? Because we all have those journeys
Mm-hmm.
where I remember being 12
Mm-hmm.
and God was so real to me.
Yeah.
And you go through your season where you know He's there, but
Mm-hmm.
that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you come back and God, you revisit Him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
And
think
yeah.
we all have a different, based on like our personalities and,
Right.
and all of that. For me, it was, I think it was an interesting, my I guess my faith journey has been interesting because there's not like I had ever really forsaken it, but there's definitely periods of my life where I wasn't living it. And so coming back to it, it's like every time you come back to it, it's like, I don't want to say every time because hopefully never again, right? Like I don't want to do that ever again.
Right.
But it was me just kind of, I guess, being like, okay, God, like this is for real, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're younger, like sometimes you don't have that kind of mindset, and it's just kind of like, okay, God's there. That's how I was raised. Like, great, right? Great. And then you kind of go off on your own way, and then God brings you back, and so yeah, I wouldn't say that it was coming back to. I really do believe like God set up the events in my life because He's like, no, like there's so much more for you.
Right. And you, with you mentioning the woman at the well, it was like that moment where she had to be honest with herself. And because she was, and she said, "This is where I'm at." God, when we're willing to do that, God just does something different in our lives, and our yes becomes different. Our story changes.
Yeah.
And we learn to sit with Him at the table more often, to the point where it becomes a daily thing.
Yeah.
Because He wants that, and that's what our stories are about.
Yeah.
Is those moments, because we can always reflect and go back and know what happened in the past, and that time when we did meet Him at the well, we can say that, and it all became like it surfaced, and we were like, okay, we're either gonna let it go and allow God to become our story now, or we're gonna stay where we're at, and what are we gonna do with it then?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's important to really dig deep and be true, and say, why am I here? What is my true story? What is God trying to do with that? How can I move forward? How can I let go? How can I be more courageous for God? And these are just things that I talk to God about too.
Yeah.
Like, I do believe that God is asking more of Coffee with Carmen, and knowing that it's part of the journey, and knowing what to let go of and what to hold on to, and just knowing it's like those birds that I saw today. Like, just okay, it's time.
Yeah, it is time. I think so. I mean, I know, it's been 2 years, and just God is calling. I know God is calling you to use your voice and to speak. And I think that's what this is about. Like, me saying yes to this is, I really do know that people need to hear this. People need to hear that Jesus can make a difference in their life, that Jesus can change things. And so many people walk around without hope, and it's just like, what for, And like you said, the woman at the well, like she she was open and honest with him, like, and then she could move forward, or she could have just denied where she was at and just not shared any of that, and went back to the way that she's living, and it's hopeless. Like, there's no hope in it.
Right. There's no freedom.
And there's no freedom, and that's exactly it. It's like as soon as you start walking with Jesus, yes, you're going to face obstacles and hard things, but there's hope through it all. Like, there is a glimmer of hope that you're going to have that wow moment, that God is going to show who He is in only the way that God could show who He is. And it's just, you see it more and more as you start to walk and take another step and take another step. It's like it kind of builds on it. But I think, that's part of this in using your voice and Coffee with Carmen, is you're giving that hope to people. And I know that there's moments for people, and we've talked about a lot of them, that feel hopeless. And to sit here and to say, like, no, always hope in Jesus.
Right.
Like, that's really what it's about.
Right. True.
Yeah. So always hope in Jesus.
Always hope in Jesus. And, I know there's been many of you that have been on this journey with us, and as we continue, things are changing, and so pray for us as things start to change, and we start changing the format and how we do things, because that's what God is asking of us. And so I just want to thank all of you for being a part of Coffee with Carmen. I know February 14th will be 2 years. And, we're walking now. We're not crawling, right?
We may fall down from time to time, but that's okay.
Yeah. But I just want to thank all of you. And thank you, Jenna, for sharing your why and your yes and your journey and your wow moments. And so I look forward to what's next. And I ask all of you to pray as we continue, and share with others, and subscribe and like, and stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, and as I always say, thank you for watching, and thank you for being there, and also always remember that there's always hope in Jesus. God bless.